Hello and welcome to ThomasGeigerCar. Today with the Ioniq6, a car that will hit the European roads early 2023 and that has been long awaited. It is the fourth model on the important Hyundai Kia eGMP platform. We all know the iconic Ioniq6 with its Bauhaus shape. We know the Kia EV6 with its station wagon SUV type-ish, coupe-ish new shape. And we know the Genesis GV60, which is just a pretty ordinary SUV coupe. And now we're doing something like a sedan or a coupe with four doors. And while the other cars are all for style and for functionality, this one is for aero efficiency. The drag coefficient is 0.21, which is less than the Ioniq6 with its 0.29, which means only that aerodynamic efficiency gives you another 100 kilometers more of range. Tires, battery, motors, all the same, just the better aero efficiency brings you 100 kilometers further. How did the designers achieve that? They've already teased us with the prophecy concept 2.5 years ago. And now this is the production model. Very aerodynamic efficient. And it's not only the main shape with the teardrop that goes back towards the end and with the roofline that is done in one bow. No, it's a lot of details that make the difference. For example, this small piece of plastic here, 2 centimeters, closing the gap between the fender and the wheel, moving the air around, giving it a closed curtain, reducing the drag, improving the efficiency. Lots of other details. The digital mirrors that we all know from other cars, they're gaining 3 kilometers of range alone. And we have, same as in the prophecy, the 2 rear wings, one here, one there, looking strange, looking great in the night because they're fully illuminated, and again, giving you more range, more efficiency. The downside of the aerodynamic efficiency is a tiny lack in functionality. While the Ioniq6 is a real functional car that offers a lot of room, this car is not as roomy and not as efficient when it comes to interior space. Yes, for the passengers it's great. The car is 4.85 meters in length, wheelbase almost 3 meters, means you got lots of knee room even in the second row. But when it comes to carriage space, to trunk space, it is kind of limited. Yes, there is enough room for 2 golf bags, 2 big golf bags. That's very important for the Koreans as a golf nation. But since the trunk lid is mounted in the middle and not in the roof, the opening is pretty limited, so you will have to balance, and if you have to look really close if you want to get big suitcases into the vehicle. They decided to do that because if they have mounted the trunk lid in the roof, they would have lost lots of headroom. And since you're sitting on a pretty high battery, you consider that very well. If we move from the back to the front, yes, there is a kind of a frunk, as we know it from the Ioniq6 or from the Kia. But also in this case, since the front is very low to gain aerodynamic efficiency, the frunk is very, very limited. If you look at that, it's just 20-25 liters, but it is still enough to put your charging cable in there or some wet and dirty hiking boots or running shoes. And it is more than in Volkswagen's models or in the Mercedes models because they don't have any trunk at all. Enough of theory, now we're driving the vehicle because the proof of the pudding is in the eating and the proof of a car is in the driving. But if we look at the driving itself, there is not much of a surprise. If you know the Ioniq6, you can guess what the Ioniq6 is about because powertrain and battery are from the same architecture, are out of the same building box. And don't worry about the navigation, we're in Korea and the navigation is very precise, the rules are very strict, so there will be lots of warnings about speed bumps, speed traps, which lane you have to take, so just ignore that friendly lady here in the big touchscreen. Yeah, so the powertrain is the same as we know it from the Ioniq6. That begins with the batteries, 53 or 77 kilowatt hours, equaling up to that famous 614 kilometers of WLTP range. And the motors are also in the same ref line than we know it from the Ioniq 5. Meaning base model with the small battery will come with roughly 110 kilowatt, 150 PS. And if you go for the big battery, you always have four-wheel drive with two options, 229 or 325 horsepower. The 325 horsepower top model has a torque of more than 600 Newton meters, accelerating the car from 0 to 100 in less than 6 seconds. And there is a big difference when it comes to speeding if you compare the Ioniq 5 with the Ioniq 6. While the Ioniq 5 is limited to 160 kilometers per hour, the Ioniq 6 has a little bit of more freedom. Since the car is more aerodynamic efficient and since it's made for the Autobahn, it can go up to 185. If it comes to charging of the Ioniq 6, it's also the same as we know it from the Ioniq 5. The system operates with 800 volts, means you have up to 350 kilowatt charging power on a DC station. That gets you from 10 to 80% in just 18 minutes, means there is not a long wait until you can continue your journey. The big difference between Ioniq 5 and Ioniq 6 is the ambience of the vehicle. Not only the size of the cabin is different, no, also the layout of the cabin is totally new. We have this aero theme that we know from the exterior, also in the interior, with a big plane-like wing underneath the dashboard that integrates the digital screens for the video mirrors, and with the big touchscreen combination with the digital cluster instrument above it. We have the same materials as we know them from Ioniq 5, so very sustainable, very good for your environmental consciousness. Recycled PET bottles, recycled fishnets that are looking a bit cheap, but at least they're good for your mindset. And we still have leather in the car, since Hyundai considers leather as a byproduct of the meat industry, a kind of premium waste. They don't see any sense in throwing it away and replacing it by plastic that you have to produce with a lot of oil and energy. Besides that, we have lots of cute and lots of very functional details in the vehicle. For example, the center console that is built like a table between the seats, where you can easily place your laptop and check some emails, watch some videos, do some work while charging, or while you can charge all your appliances. We have wireless charging here, we have USB old, USB new. There are at least half a dozen USB ports in the car. And another very fancy detail are the door panels. Since all the buttons for the windows are integrated in the table in the center, the door panels are very slim, giving you a wide feeling and are looking really great. Especially if you see them in the night in a new color scheme. You have lots of LED different colors, but you can really have a Gangnam feeling in the car, like a cyberpunk enjoying the nightlife of Seoul. When we come to the back seat, yes, we have lots of room there. The standard skateboard platform of an EV means long wheelbase, short overhang, lots of freedom for your legs and your knees, but we have a little bit of limited headroom. That's also a side effect of the battery in the floor. That's 15 centimeters high, meaning you're really sitting a bit higher than in an ICE limousine, but ground clearance is enough and headroom is also enough. I'm almost 1.90 meters tall and I still have room above my head, not only on the front seat but also on the back seat. It's roughly half a year before the car hits the streets in Europe, and Hyundai has not really figured out yet how the car will come to our continent. They have figured out the powertrain and battery options, but if it comes to color and trim and all the standard or optional features, they're not decided yet. And that is also true for the pricing. They haven't figured out for what money they want to sell the vehicle. But they already decided this is not a range-topping model. It's not the better Ioniq 5, it's just a similar alternative. So if you talk to the marketing guys, they will let you know that the price should be on the same level as the Ioniq 5, meaning a starting price a little bit below 45,000 euros in Europe. And if you take the top model with the big battery and the powerful motors, you will end up at 60, maybe a little bit above that. Thanks for joining me on the first test drive with the new Hyundai Ioniq 6, a car that offers a totally new facet on the eGMP platform. After all the crossovers, the high-raced vehicles, this is the first flat model, and a car that shows that aerodynamic efficiency and the sleek style of a sedan is not only reserved to the upper class. Yes, we have a Model S from Tesla, we have a Mercedes EQS, and we have some other sedans from China, but this one is the first volume segment sedan that offers lots of range with a very reasonable battery. For that reason, I have the belief this car can really rock the market and approach customers that are just tired of all the SUVs.